So hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and I'm back again with another really interesting Rust video. In this video guys, we are going to start practicing variables in Rust. But before I start with the video guys, I just want to tell you that in this video we are going to actually use something called as Rust Playground to practice the Rust code. So if you go to the official Rust website, you will see this link here called as Playground, and once I click on this link, you can see that now I am redirected to a page, and this page basically has an inbuilt Rust compiler and interpreter, and you can actually write your main function of Rust here, and you can use this run button to run this code. So in this video we are not going to use notepad or any different IDE. You don't even need Rust installed on your system. You can just use this link to actually practice Rust. Okay, now without wasting any time further, let's get started with our topic, which is Rust variables. Okay, now first thing first guys, what is a variable? So variable is nothing but a container to hold a data. Okay, now that data could be number, could be string, could be float, could be any type. We are not going to discuss the data types. We are mostly going to discuss how to declare variables and how to use them. The keyword which we are going to use to declare a variable in Rust is going to be called as let. Okay, so let is a keyword which makes you declare the variables. So what you do is you write let and then you name the variable. So let's say if I name the variable as var, and then I assign it a value. So let's say my variable is having a numeric value, that's 1. Okay, now I put a semicolon, and now I want to use this variable, right? And what's the best way to use a variable is just to print it. So I'm just going to use a println macro. So println exclamation mark, and now basically I will want to concatenate this variable to a string. So something like the value of this variable is this much, right? And to do that, we are going to use a special thing in which you are going to write a string and you are going to add a formatting to it. So let's say my string is going to be value of variable is, and then to inject the value of this variable in this string, I am going to use something called as curly braces. So these curly braces is basically a placeholder for any value you want to inject in the string. And to inject that value, you are just going to put a comma here, and then you are going to pass that variable. So when this string is going to be printed, this variable value is going to be injected in these curly braces, and then it is going to get printed. And I will add a semicolon here, and now let's run this code just to see how it works. And there you go guys, you can see that the value of variable is 1, which is successfully printed. Now this is how you can easily declare a variable. You can assign a value to it, and actually you can assign this variable any type of value, right? For example, I can use this let keyword to declare a string variable. So for example, let me say str equals to apple. So this is my string variable, and let's say there is a float variable, right? So flt becomes equals to, let's say, 0.001. Okay, now if I want to print the value of all these variables, I can just say value of variables are, and I can put 3 curly braces here, and then I am just going to pass three values as part of this string formatting. Okay, so because I want to inject 3 variables in this string, I'm going to pass here 3 variables. But the thing to note here is guys that these variables are going to be injected in the string in the order they are mentioned. Okay, so basically the first curly brace is going to be filled by the first variable, second is going to be filled by the second one, and the third is going to be filled by the third. Okay, let's run this code guys. Let's see if this works for us. And there you go guys, you can see that the first variable 1 is printed, then the string is printed, and then the float variable is printed. So this is just a basic thing guys, that how you can declare a variable and you can just assign any value to it, right? But can we change the value of this variable? So let's say, let me remove all this code, and let's say that we only want to print the var. Okay, we don't want any string or float right now. But what I want to do that before I print this variable var, I want to change this value. So let's say the first value of var is 1, but I just copy this code, I put it here, but this time I change the value of var from 1 to 2. Okay, and now I print the value of var again. Okay, let's see how this goes. I'm just going to run this code, guys, and let's see what is the output. And there you go, guys, we are getting an error. And what is the error? That you cannot assign twice to the immutable variable var. Basically, guys, in Rust, by default, all the variables which are declared by the let keyword are immutable. So by default, you cannot change the value of a variable. I can also say that by default, all the variables are sort of constant. So once you have declared them, once you have assigned, you can't change it. So actually make a variable mutable. That means you want to update it later. You have to do something called as adding a keyword which is called as mut. So when you say let mute var equals to 1, basically means that the var is a mutable variable. Now if I run this code, you will see that this is going to work perfectly. There you go. So the first value was 1, which is printed, and the second value is 2. So this is how you can actually create mutable variables in Rust. Now another thing is how you want to name a variable. So for now we were not being careful about naming the variable, right? And basically, guys, you can actually name the variable anything, but there are certain rules. So variable must start with either a letter or an underscore. So for example, if I do something like this, so underscore var, you will see that this is sorry, I have to change here as well. So you will see that this will actually work. Okay, yeah, sorry. Now you will see that this will actually work, and yeah, so this is working. But if I'm using a letter or an underscore to start a variable, it works. But if I use something else, so let's say if I use a number, so let's say if I use 10 var, so if I copy everything here, now you will see that this will not work. Now you will see that a mutable variable must be followed by a name binding. Even though it's not a mutable variable, even though I completely remove this code, still you will see that this will not work, because this is not the right way to declare the variable. It has to be either an underscore or a alphabet to start the variable name. Okay, so you can see that this works now. Another thing is that the variable name can contain letters, digits, and an underscore. But other than that, if you add any special character, it will not be acceptable. So if you have variable called as variable 1, this will work. It can have letters and numbers, just the number shouldn't be the starting starting of the variable name. If you want to add a underscore, variable underscore 1, this will also work. But if you do something like this, so if I do something like this, like variable -1, now if I try to run this, so if I do this, this will not work. This is going to give us an error that you cannot do a -1. So if I change this hyphen to, let's say, underscore, if I do this, this is going to work. Okay, and so there you go. This one is working, but you can't use a hyphen. Okay, so basically you can use underscore, you can use numbers, you can use alphabets, but other than that, if you add any special character, it's not gonna work. Okay, for example, even if I add something called as @, this is not gonna work. Okay, so this thing will not work. This is going to give us an error. Okay, and there you go, we are getting an error, right? Another thing, if you want to create a variable with 2 words, so if you are working in some other programming language, guys, then for example, we generally use a convention in which if we are joining 2 different words, we actually make our variable start with the smaller case letters. For example, if I do var, this will be the first word, and then to join the second word, we actually do something like this. So we make the first letter of the second word capital, and then we write this right? So let's say if my variable value is name is var name, okay, var name becomes equals to 1. Now if I take this and if I want to print it, you will see that this is going to give us an error, because if you are joining two names, so you can see that this is actually not giving us an error. This prints the value of the variable, so this is not an error, but it gives us a warning that you shouldn't name your variables with like one letter, capital in middle. You shouldn't be naming it like that. If there are two different words you are joining, you should actually have a snake case name. So if I would have done it like this wouldn't give me any warning. So if you are actually using two different words in your variable name, you join it via a underscore. Okay, you can see that this doesn't give any error. So that is about how you can name your variable, guys. Now there is another keyword you can use to declare a variable. So right now we were only using let, right? But there is actually another keyword we can use, and that is called as constant. So whenever you are using a constant keyword, guys, you should actually use capital case. So let's say if I use a constant pi and the value of pi is 3.14, if I want to print pi, you can do it like this. Okay, so let me run this code and you will see that that we need a type for the constant. Okay, so this is also a thing, guys, that if you are using a keyword called as let, then you don't really have to declare the type of the variable. But a constant is a special type of variable. Because the value of the constant cannot be changed, we also actually need to specify to the Rust compiler that what type of value it's gonna hold. Okay, so you have to do something like this, like colon, and then you have to give like float 32. So float 32 or F32 basically means that this constant is of type float, which can have a 32-bit value. Now if I run this thing, then you see that it works. So there is one thing about let is that you can declare any type of variable. You don't really have to specify the data type, and you cannot change the value of that. You cannot change the value of that variable unless you declare it as mutable. But with constant, you have to specify the data type of the variable as well. So in a constant, you cannot just assign any value. You can only assign a value for the data type it is it is attached to. So constant value can also not be changed. So if I do something like this, like pi becomes equals to 2.14, you will see that this will also give us an error because the constant value cannot be changed. So this is also wrong. It's saying invalid left hand side of an assessment. So you can assign a constant to any variable, but any other variable cannot be assigned to a constant. And again, the thing about constant is that as per the naming convention, you should only name your constant with a capital case. So let's say if I use a small case like pi in small, then this also should give us something like a warning that the naming convention is not. So you can see that it is still printing the value. So it still prints the value, but it gives us a warning that pi should have a uppercase name. So these are the two ways, guys, let and constant, by which you can actually declare your variables and you can print them or use them in any way you want to. Okay, I hope this video was clear to you guys. It was informative to you and you did learn something from it. If you find it good, guys, then please do not forget to like this video and share this video with your friends. If you have not yet subscribed to my channel, then I highly request you to please do subscribe and hit the bell icon for future notifications of more such programming and coding related videos. If you have any questions, comments, suggestions for me, feedback for me, please do write down in the comment section below, guys. I would be really happy to read it. And thank you so much, guys. I'll see you guys in the next video. Until then, take care and bye bye.